All right, welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into a big one for your GCSE English Lit exam, J.B. Priestley's classic and inspector calls. So let's set the scene. On the surface, it's all very simple, right? You've got this well-off family, they're having a dinner party to celebrate, and then a guest shows up out of nowhere. But this isn't just any guest. This inspector is about to pull apart their entire world, thread by thread. So, here's how we're going to tackle this. We're going to follow the inspector's investigation step by step and watch as this supposedly perfect evening just completely falls apart into a massive moral showdown. All right, Section 1, the perfect dinner. So picture this, it's 1912. The Titanic hasn't sunk yet, the First World War is still a couple of years away, and everything feels, well, pretty optimistic if you're rich. And that's exactly where we find ourselves, in the very grand dining room of the Burling family. They're rich, they're powerful, and honestly, they're completely clueless about what's coming. Okay, let's meet our players. What's so clever here is that Priestley's stage directions tell you everything you need to know. These aren't just descriptions, they're basically character assassinations before they've even spoken. You've got Arthur, the dad, who's portentous, a bit of a windbag. Sybil, his wife, is cold. Sheila, the daughter, is all excited and pleased with life. But her brother Eric, he's already not quite at ease. And then there's Gerald Croft, the fiancé, Mr. Perfect upper-class gentleman. So yeah, on the surface, everything looks rosy. And of course, Mr. Burling, being Mr. Burling, just has to give a speech. He gets up and spouts his life philosophy to the younger men. And it's this absolute gem. A man has to mind his own business and look after himself and his own. I mean, that is pure, unapologetic, selfish capitalism right there. Burn this quote into your brain, because the entire rest of the play is basically set up to tear this exact idea to shreds.
And this is where Priestley just brilliantly trolls Mr. Burling with dramatic irony. Remember, the play was written in 1945, so when Burling stands there in 1912 and says there won't be a war and that the Titanic is unsinkable, absolutely unsinkable, the audience knows he's completely, catastrophically wrong. It just makes him look like a pompous fool right from the get-go. All his authority, gone.
So just as Burling is dismissing any idea of social responsibility, he literally calls it community and all that nonsense, what happens? A sharp ring of the doorbell. The timing is just perfect. It's so theatrical. An inspector has called, and he's here to challenge everything Burling has just said. Okay, Section 2, a chain of events. The inspector gets straight to the point. He tells them a young woman named Eva Smith has just died a horrible death. She drank disinfectant. And he's here to ask some questions. He wants to know the series of events that pushed her to do it. Now, this line from the inspector is critical. It's his whole philosophy in a nutshell. He says, what happened to her then may have determined what happened to her afterwards. A chain of events. He's not looking for a single murderer with a smoking gun. No, he's showing them how a series of seemingly small, selfish actions all link together to create one massive tragedy. And the first links in that chain get revealed pretty fast. First up, Mr. Burling. He admits he fired Eva from his factory just for having the nerve to ask for a small pay rise, and he feels zero responsibility for it. Then the inspector moves on to Sheila, and she confesses that, out of pure petty jealousy, she used her family's status to get that same girl fired from her next job in a dress shop. But here's the difference. Look at Sheila's reaction. Unlike her dad, she is absolutely horrified. She gets it when she says, but these girls aren't cheap labor, they're people. That's a huge turning point. She's the first one to actually feel guilty and understand what the inspector is saying. She's the hope for the future, you know? All right, on to Section 3, secrets and lies. And this is where things get even messier. The inspector drops another bomb. After she lost those jobs, Eva Smith started using a different name, Daisy Renton. And as soon as he says it, Gerald Croft, Sheila's fiancé, visibly flinches. Uh-oh, we found the next link in the chain. So, Gerald has to come clean. Remember all those times he told Sheila he was busy at the works last summer? Yeah, not so much. He was having an affair with Daisy Renton. He claims he rescued her, set her up in an apartment. He was her wonderful fairy prince for a while. But then he got bored, ended it, and left her high and dry. Next up in the hot seat is Mrs. Burling, and she walks in just radiating self-importance. She is a prominent member of a women's charity, and she is absolutely convinced that she is morally flawless and totally above all of this. And get this, she admits that just 2 weeks ago,
a pregnant, desperate young woman came to her charity asking for help. But Mrs. Burling was offended by the girl's manner. She thought she was being impertinent, so she used her influence to have her request for help refused. And even knowing the girl is now dead, she says, "I consider I did my duty." Just, wow. The coldness is staggering.
So now we're at section 4, the final confession. Mrs. Burling, still feeling totally smug and guilt-free, decides she knows exactly who's to blame for this whole mess. It's not her, of course. It's the father of the girl's unborn child. And this is maybe the most incredible moment of dramatic irony in the whole play. She starts going off saying, "Go and look for the father of the child. It's his responsibility." She says he should be publicly shamed. She is digging this massive hole, not realizing for a second that she's burying her own son in it. The inspector's trap has been sprung beautifully.
And then Eric walks in. And just like that, the final awful piece of the puzzle clicks into place. He's the father, the man his own mother just condemned to public ruin. Eric's confession is just grim. He was drunk, he forced himself on her, and he got her pregnant. He then stole money from his dad's office to try and help her. But, and this is so important, she refused to take the stolen money. And that refusal is the very reason she ended up going to Mrs. Burling's charity for help in the first place. See, the chain of events is complete. Every single one of them pushed her closer to the edge. Okay, section 5, the inspector's warning. All the secrets are out. Everyone is implicated. The inspector's job is pretty much done. But before he goes, he delivers his final massive speech. And this is basically the whole point of the play. And really, the entire play comes down to this direct clash of two worldviews. You've got Mr. Burling's idea, a man has to mind his own business and look after himself. And then you have the inspector's message. We are members of one body. We are responsible for each other. It's individualism versus community. Priestley is definitely not subtle about which side he's on. And he makes it crystal clear this isn't just about one dead girl. He tells them there are millions and millions and millions of Eva Smiths and John Smiths out there. Eva isn't just a person. She's a symbol for all the ordinary, vulnerable people whose lives are affected by the choices of the rich and powerful. And then comes the final, chilling warning. If people like the Burlings don't learn this lesson of responsibility, then they will be taught it in fire and blood and anguish. Now, just imagine hearing that in 1945. The audience had just lived through 2 world wars. That line would have hit them like a ton of bricks. It's a prophecy that came true. And with that, the inspector just leaves. The Burlings make a quick call to the police station and find out, get this, there's no Inspector Gould on the force. Mr. and Mrs. Burling are thrilled. They think they're off the hook. But just as they're celebrating, the phone rings. It's the police. A young woman has just died on her way to the infirmary, and an inspector is on his way to ask some questions. And that final twist leaves us all wondering, who was Inspector Gould? A ghost? Their conscience? And maybe the biggest question of all, does it even matter if he was real? Because everything they confessed to still happened, right?